friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Workshop. We've got a project here that I don't believe I've put on camera before, and it's converting an instrument to a left-handed instrument. Now, I would say in some cases that I wouldn't recommend it, depending on how the instrument is built and those kinds of things. But in this particular case, I would say this one is about as straightforward of a left-hand conversion as you can get. So here we go. This is a Michael Kelly mandolin. There you can see it in the fretboard, and the body and the sides are kind of pretty, and the back is kind of pretty. It appears to be solid wood top. I don't know about the back, but if I was just guessing, I might even say the back and sides are solid on this. I wouldn't have expected that, but it kind of looks that way just from the grain and stuff. Let me see here. I see a very distinct piece of grain on the inside of the mandolin here. I'm going to see if I see that on the back, and that will tell me for sure, and it's right about there. And yes, it is solid wood, because that curl right there, there's a little round kind of a curl right there, is on the inside. So this is all solid wood. I'm really surprised at that. Well, you know what? It says here MKASOLIDRHS. So I would, that probably means, that's the model number, that probably means it's a solid right hand strung or whatever. This can be left-handed fairly easy, because it's got a kind of a universal tailpiece. It's also got only one brace down the center. There's just one brace down the center. That I don't care for, but that's it. I've already looked inside, I've checked it, and there is just one main brace down the center. So, because of that, it's made pretty symmetrical. You can pretty much just convert it and expect it to play and sound just about as good as one way as the other. About the only thing that you'll be able to tell is that this tailpiece is cut, kind of for a right-handed player, I guess you'd say. But who's to say when you turn it upside down that it's not correct that way? So, it's not that big a deal. Of course, we'll have to make a left-handed nut. And I've already made a left-handed saddle for it. And you might say, well, the saddles are reversible, but not the ones that I build. They are not reversible. These are cut a certain way. The treble strings are out in front here, and the bass strings are sitting a little further back, So these are not reversible. They have to be made specifically for left hand, and I've already done that. So we should be good to go. Let's see how quick we can do it. Okay, the first issue, I'm going to have to drill these holes out bigger. It takes the next size up, so we'll have to do that first. I'm sure I misspoke a while ago when I read that model number. That's not right hand, even though it says RHS. I thought right hand strung maybe, but it looks like it's probably referring to the radius here. There is a slight radius on the fretboard. So I guess I'll go ahead and put a radius on the saddle as well. I set this down on here, and there's light underneath the middle of it, so you can see already that it's just touching in certain places. So I'm just going to sand it. Shouldn't take much because it's pretty close, and you can see it's already starting to make a contact, I believe. That would probably work, but it's still not quite making contact on the treble side all the way. Of course, when you put pressure on there, it changes the shape of it anyway. There you go. That looks real good. Real good. Now we have to work on the nut end. And the nut end, it would be really cool if I could just flip this around. It's a plastic nut. Since I'm going to have to make a new nut, we'll make it out of bone, or antler in this case. Whenever I have a nut that's really stuck, I just put like a block of wood or something like that and then just tap it lightly, and it generally just pops it right off, no problem. And that's what happened in this case. Didn't seem to create any problem at all. The I'm sure it was glued really tight from the factory, which I do put a drop of glue on them myself, so there's no problem there. But now what I will do is straighten up the nut area here. You can see there's a little bit of maybe paint chip out right there where it popped it off, and it was stuck, I guess, to the paint maybe. But regardless, it's no big deal. I just go down through there and I clean off the glue right on the end of the fretboard with a very sharp chisel. This chisel is crazy sharp, so it'll just slide right there on the end of that wood and cut the glue right off without even damaging the wood at all. Matter of fact, I don't see any wood coming off of there. All I see is glue coming off of there. So when you get a chisel that sharp where you can just shave right between the wood and the glue, you've got it. And that's perfect. And then I'll just check right here and see if there's probably a little humpy deal going on there. Yeah, there is. So basically, I'm just going to go make another piece that's exactly these same specs. Just lay it on here, glue it in place, start stringing it up, and we'll cut the string slots as we string it up. Alright, I've made my little nut blank. Double checking the truss rod cover that it's going to fit with the holes and let them line up, because it butts up right against there. And it appears like it's just right, so I think we're good. And this is a minor detail-y thing, but when I'm making the antler saddle, you have to work with the nature of the item you're using. And the antler, it's rounded. Well, there's the last little bit of that round. Well, that's what I'm going to round off anyway to go towards the peg head, so that works out. Had I turned it around the other way, that round would have been on this side and we'd have had a problem. So, you just have to work with the material you have, and sometimes you just have to squeeze that last little drop out of it, if you will. And that's what we're doing right here. But it worked out perfectly. There's no problem. I'm just pointing out that that's what you have to do on natural materials like that. I would have done this anyway, but I'm just making use of that natural curve. It's even a little bit less filing because of the little bit of a curve that's still there. So I just put it in the vise, and this side here on my side would be the peg head side. So I'm just cutting a little bit of a bevel on that first just to get it kind of even. Like that. And then I'll just go and kind of round that bevel off now a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty close to perfect right there. So now we'll put that in place. I've started using this Formula 560 for gluing these nuts in. It's just a real good glue for a lot of things like this, and I really do like this stuff. What I like about it is that it's a water cleanup. It sets up pretty darn fast. It doesn't create any additional problems, like with finish or anything like that. So it's just a pretty darn good glue. Okay, that's just about as good as it gets right there. Now we'll mark off. This would be the normal way I would mark it off with the base. These are slightly different too, but because this is left-handed, I'll turn it over upside down and center it and mark my string grooves. That should work good. I take my saw, that would be good enough to get us close in the ballpark there, I think. And now we have to start stringing it. At the moment, I'm working on the assumption that this fretboard is fine. I've looked down it. It looks pretty good. but it's hard to tell if it's perfect. I didn't file it because I didn't see any point in spending the customer's money here if we don't need to. So we'll check the action and setup and all that stuff here in a minute. And when we get that close, then we'll be able to tell if there's going to be any buzzing going on. And if there is, then we'll level and recrown the frets. But right now, we're going to leave it as is. It's awkward working totally backwards here on a left-handed instrument. It just feels wrong doing it left-handed. You just don't do that many left-handed instruments, so you never get used to it, you know. But you have to keep it in your mind the whole time you're working on it, because otherwise you're going to screw something up. Okay, well, you don't need to watch me put strings on, but we'll get those strings on here and start checking it out. Since some of you might be looking to buy this same mandolin, I just point out that the tailpiece, in my opinion, is better than a lot of them I see, but it's kind of a pain. At least they designed it where there's only one straight thing down through the center, so you can put the strings in from the side, slide them down on the peg here, and that's very easy to put a string on. So that part's very easy. But as you're stringing it, they like to come off, and you know, of course, now when I want it to come off, it won't come off. But I can't tell you how many of these strings have popped off back here. And now, look, literally, when you do it on video, I can't make it come off. Isn't that weird? But seriously, every one of these strings has popped off of the deal back there until I show you on video, of course. So I don't know why that is. It got locked in there somehow. This loop's bigger, I think is what it is on this one. And it's just kind of wedged in there. But that's okay. Anyway, the point is, they do come off very easy back here as you're stringing it. Other than that, it's a pretty good tailpiece. The other thing about this tailpiece that I feel like I have to do, although on this particular string it went pretty good, is I feel like I have to push these down. They like to ride up the little peg as you're tightening them. So I would watch that if you have one of these, that these strings are down at the bottom. If you leave them at the top of the peg, you're going to have trouble over time. So I would just keep them at the bottom of the peg if you can. You'll end up, that peg would be more than likely, that little peg will end up breaking off if you have it at the top very often. Okie dokie. Now I'm going to work on the action on this, and probably going to do most of that off camera also. I'm starting out, and obviously I'm way high, so no problem there. We'll lower all this down and get it pretty close to our, you know, about 15 thousandths roughly. 18 thousandths is what I use as my standard, but most of the time it's a real tight 18 thousandths, so it's closer to probably 15. Okay, so we'll do that and bring you back here in just a moment. What was it the prize fighter said? Well, it was a tough fight, Ma, but I won. Woohoo! We got this Michael Kelly mandolin set up left-handed. You know, in my life, I've always said I can't do anything left-handed. But there are a couple things I can sort of do left-handed. I was a champion archer when I was in my teens. I think I won Missouri State champion when I was about 16 years old. Now that was the intermediate level, by the way. But anyway, I can shoot a bow left-handed. Even though I'm normally right-handed on a bow, I can turn it around and shoot it left-handed if I have to, and I do fine that way. Same way with a rifle. I can do that left-handed. Beyond that, nothing. I can't do anything. I couldn't write my name left-handed if my life depended on it. Where you could read it, let's say it that way. So how am I going to play a left-handed mandolin? Well, I've got some friends. Harry Wagner, he's a relatively well-known mandolin player. As a matter of fact, they knew about him down in Nashville. All the big players down there knew him. And Harry Wagner's a really good mandolin player. And he takes a right-handed mandolin and he flips it over and he plays it left-handed and he strums up and he chords it and plays it and just picks the fire out of it. He's a really good mandolin player. And that's all he does. He doesn't restring it left-handed. He just turns it over and plays it left-handed, but it's a right-handed instrument, if that makes any sense. And he does that with a guitar, and he does it with a mandolin, and I've seen him do it, I believe, with a fiddle as well. I have another friend, Cecil Goforth, who does the exact same thing. So I've got two friends that do that. So, not to be outdone, I'm going to take a left-handed mandolin, and I'm going to play it right-handed here in front of you right now. And you can all laugh along with me. So here we go. So I have it it's left hand strung. I have to remember the chords are backwards. I can only do the 2-finger chords this way, so just bear with me here. All right, here we go. And I'm going to strum up now. You know, you can't strum down. That would be backwards. All right, so here we go. There's a well-beaten path on this old mountainside where I wandered when I was a lad. And I wandered alone to the place I call home in those Blue Ridge Hills far away. Oh, I love those hills of old Virginia. From those Blue Ridge Hills I did roam. When I die, won't you bury me on the mountain far away in my Blue Ridge Mountain home? There you go. Upside down, backwards, playing the mandolin. Never thought I'd do that. And I especially never thought I'd do it on camera in front of so many people. Anyway, if you're looking to get a left-handed mandolin and you're not going to buy a left-handed mandolin, this would probably be the closest thing you can get to it. Buy a mandolin very similar to this. As I mentioned, the bracing is totally symmetrical because there's only one brace right down the center. And so, you know, it's not made uniquely for right hand or left hand. Therefore, it converts to a left-handed mandolin fairly easily. You just got to put a different saddle on it, perhaps. If you're using one of the standard saddles, you'll have to put a different saddle on it. You can flip it around, but more than likely it won't be right. But then you will need to make a left-handed nut for sure. And other than that, it worked out real good. The action's very good on it. I've got it holding the pick at the 7th fret just like normal. I've got the action tight, a very tight 18 thousandths down here. So it's all good, as they say. I hope you enjoyed this little short video about converting a mandolin to a left-hander. It's a Michael Kelly. Thanks for watching.